I want to pick up a couple of comments. Um, JSD says the amphitheatre, the Colossus, it was called the Colosseum because of the statue of Nero that stood next to it. Of course, Nero's head had been removed and a different head imposed. I think it became the head of the sun god, but it was the Flavian amphitheatre, and it did a lot of unspeakable violence and misery, and death took place within that structure just for the sake of punishment and entertainment, mainly for the masses. Impressive building, but it was used for more like a human slaughterhouse. Some gift definitely exudes of positivity. Well, yeah, but it is a magnificent piece of architecture, up there with oh, what was I? It was a place with a hole in the roof, anyway. Um, Parrowing Delta says, and this I find fascinating. I do like listening to you talk. Thank you so much. But I must admit, I'm struggling to hang on. I'm so sorry. I'm probably being a bit soporific. The wrong time in the morning, really. And you say Liz Truss is the worst prime minister ever, without it even being questionable. So that conclusion is born out of an objective assessment, giving consideration to prevailing circumstances, timeframes, and outcomes. And there is nobody worse ever. I don't think I've heard such an ill-informed, biased, subjective remark. Well-founded criticism of Nigel Farage or Tommy Robinson that makes any sense or holds any water seems notably absent. Unfortunately, the state of affairs, which have been denied by Liberals and ignored by the government, have finally caught the attention of others. You could blame Farage and Robinson for that if you think that everything was going swimmingly beforehand. No, I don't. And as I've said, I've tried to give Farage and Robinson the benefit of the doubt. I think it's possible to identify some of the issues that make Liz Truss so repugnant as a prime minister. First of all, her mini budget in September 2022, which included unfunded tax cuts, led to severe market reaction, caused the pound to plummet, drove up borrowing costs. This destabilised the UK economy. There's a really good reason why she is the worst prime minister ever. Her short tenure, the fact that she only survived for 45 days, make her the shortest prime minister in British history. This brief period is indicative of her failure to maintain public and political stability. Her lack of a mandate. Critics argue that she lacked a strong mandate from the public as she was elected by a small number of baying Conservative Party members rather than through a general election. Her policy U-turns, the series of rapid policy reversals to keep her in power, particularly concerning her economic policies, her political chaos, her failure to manage the political political landscape led to significant internal division within the Conservative Party, contributing to political instability and a loss of public confidence in her government. Can we go on? A loss of public confidence. Public opinion polls during the time that she was in office showed a dramatic decline in support for both Truss and the Conservative Party, reflecting widespread dissatisfaction with her leadership, which led ultimately to the collapse of the Conservative Party in the last general election, because Rishi Sunak couldn't turn that round. How could he, with the flapping hands and the ridiculous posture of Liz Truss? The cabinet instability, the multiple resignations, the reshuffles in a very short period of time, reflecting internal turmoil, the lack of cohesive leadership, her failure to deliver on any promises, many of the key promises made during her leadership speech, during the speech before she went into number 10 Downing Street, make no sense when compared to what she managed to do or didn't do during her tenure. Delivering economic growth, tax cuts not realised, further eroding her reputation, her inadequate ability to manage crisis. She couldn't manage her hands, let alone crisis. She doesn't listen. She doesn't learn. Apparently, she spent days in front of a mirror practicing her hand gestures, but her hand jobs were useless from the beginning, and they are no better now. Doesn't matter how much you practice. Liz Truss, I'm sure, has put in years of practice with her hand jobs, but it does nothing. It does nothing to justify the nonsense and the chaos that she caused. And the economic criticism. Her economic policies were not only criticised domestically, but also drew concern from international observers, including the International Monetary Fund, damaging the UK's reputation. But I think the top of the list is her determination before she became Prime Minister to effect some sort of standoff with Sergei Lavrov without having done her homework, without having mastered the basic geography, claiming that Rostov-on-Don was part of Ukraine and not part of Russia. This madness where her arrogance got the better of the situation. We shouldn't have touched her with a barge pole. We shouldn't have given her the opportunity to stand after that betrayal of diplomacy. Liz Truss did more to start the war in Ukraine, probably, than anybody else. And she was given the keys to number 10. Well, actually, there are no keys to number 10. Number 10 is manned by police. There's no keyhole in the door. Now, her commitment to tax cuts, maybe some people think that's a very valid thing to have. A champion of free market principles, fine, but she didn't deliver. She didn't follow through. It's like flatulence without fundamental product. Her strong ideological stance, her commitment to deregulation and reducing government involvement, but it's all nonsense, persiflage. It's just castles in the sky, because she didn't deliver. And even if she resonated with a particular segment of the Conservative Party, she didn't deliver. She was the alarm clock going off before its time. Widely criticised, justly criticised, appropriately criticised. I hope that's a response that is satisfactory. I've talked about Nigel Farage and Tommy Robinson elsewhere, but Parrowing Delta, thank you so much for the detailed comment, and as I say, always stimulating and always welcome. Even if I don't agree with what you say, the comments are hugely welcome, and I read whatever I can.